I'd like to invite two visiting scholars to come up to the stage right now. Mr. Naota Ozawa and Mr. Takumi Ichikawa are with Nippon Life Insurance, and the US Asia Center did help set up the relationship for them with Professor Ling, but this is actually a separate project that Nippon Life is in Professor Ling's lab now.
I think Dr. Ling covered all of our presentation, I think. So I don't think I need to present, but let me recap the Dr. Ling's presentation and our research project. So again, thank you for having us today. And then I'm Naota Ozawa, and then he's Takumi Ichikawa. We are the visiting scholar and then working with Dr. Ling. And today we're going to talk about a little bit about the sponsored research project with Stanford Medicine. And then first of all, I'll go through the outline of the research project. But let me introduce a little bit about the background of this research project. So as you all know, that on every industry, including my business, life insurance, and then many cutting-edge technologies and then the business model come out of academic paper, I believe. For example, as Dr. Ling said that the Google in 2017 publicized the notable academic paper called "Attention is All You Need," and then this is kind of related to the deep learning technique. And then after that, the OpenAI made use of this technology to build the AI model called GPT. So I believe that the many business model technology social implementation come from the academic papers, even though the boundaries between academia and business is becoming blurred. And then as you can see this in this slide, the trend in the medical publication, this trend. And this is the structure of a research project. This project is the 2-year project, and this year, the second year. We have two aims of this project. One is to take advantage of electronic medical record to predict the target diseases, including the type 2 diabetes and the acute myocardial infarction, also known as heart attack, I think. Yeah. And then the other is to utilize the wearable data, heart rate and then the ECG from like the Apple Watch to predict the symptom or detect the symptom of the target diseases dynamically. And then the question is why we are interested in the AI, healthcare, or medicine, even though we are the life insurance company. I can say that given the long-term nature of the life insurance policies, the proactive healthcare or medical interventions prior to the occurrence of the insured event are, let's say, the crucial. So I believe that the healthcare or like the medicine has truly something to do with the life insurance. And this is the timeline or the steps of the research project. And in first year, we read so many papers, thanks to Dr. Ling, and to identify the really good concept or the idea to fit our research project. After that, we built the prototype of the AI model, including the wearable data and an EMR data. And this year, we try to validate this model fitting for the Asian population because our motivation is to go to the market in Japan. That's why we are now using the Asian. After that, we will write the paper as our outcome of the research project. And then in terms of the business development perspective, we should not only building the AI, but also the kind of the critical needs of the users. That's why we created kind of this map, the patient journey, to identify what kind of population is our target population. And then I can say that the patient had 3 states. First is normal state, healthy state, and then the disease state, diagnosis. After that, after disease states. And in light of our research scope, I can say that our target population is between disease state and normal state. So we define these states as transition state. And then our AI model try to predict these transition states.
So will adding more and more data improve the accuracy, or are there other things you have to do?
Yeah, we plan to collect it from not only our Stanford data, but also other, Dr. Ling collected HIE data, like more and more healthcare data is so effective. And the next step, actually, we plan to collect the wearable data in our company, so our employees. We try to some things to collect a lot of data.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you very much, gentlemen. Congratulations on your work this year.
Thank you.
We have one more kind of special collaborative research presentation with Dr. Amit Kapoor, who is the Honorary Chair of the Institute for Competitiveness in India. And I think you're not going to use slides, so we shouldn't have this much trouble.
Thank you, Richard. So it's absolutely a pleasure to be here and share my ideas in terms of the kind of work that I'm doing with so I'm not sharing any of the research insights, but rather trying to share as to what is the kind of work that we have done and what has been the driver for the same. So like, why are we collaborating was one of the first questions I thought I should share out here. And that was that it is an endeavor. And I think I'm saying for both of us here, and it's an endeavor to make a difference in lives of people, to really build better understanding of the process of economics, how economic development happens, and how we can solve the problems and the challenges that the world faces today. So when we really talk about this, this is where we started our first endeavor in terms of creating a course called Rebalancing Economic Systems, or I would like to call it as reimagining capitalism. He likes to call it as rebalancing economic systems, but those are academic debates, etc. But this is what we wanted to really go out and talk to people. And then if you really look at this whole collaborative approach, there were three set of people, as I see, or three distinct buckets of people we wanted to talk to, or set of things that we wanted to do and impact. One was clearly individuals. That was done through courses. The second one was industries, and how do we really talk to various industry people, give them an understanding of what we are really trying to do, or possibly even do research on those industries. The third pillar was countries. And when we talk about countries, like the idea was to really understand countries like, say, India better, or the other developing nations better. I've learned so much as we were really going through this process in terms of making application of some of this thinking across different parts of the world. So when you talk about the research that we have been doing, it could look very siloed at one point in time. The applications that I've been able to make have been absolutely stupendous. Like something like this, the learnings that I've actually had over a period of time, we have made application to those learnings in Africa, especially Zimbabwe and the African continent, now beyond India.
Now, let me interrupt. You were invited by the president of Zimbabwe to go and advise the country just about a month ago, right?
Yes, so I'm advising the country help Zimbabwe to really come out of the economic crisis. Zimbabwe does face a very acute economic crisis. So the idea is to really see how they can really focus on economic development, make lives of people better, and such things. But when you talk about pillars of collaboration, then there are three distinct pillars of collaboration, as I would also say. One was research, and research would mean writing papers and possibly writing newspaper articles and reports. Then publications beyond this that we can look at, and then the conversations that we are able to have. This is a great platform that we are really looking at learning from each other. In fact, for me, possibly this has been one of my finest days at Stanford. And I've spent a lot of time here, and just for one problem or one reason, and that problem person is sitting here next to me, like because of his session. I think I just really enjoyed it. It was such a huge learning experience. But when you really look at the set of work that we have done in the recent past, we documented the G20 effort that the government of India did. So, like the government of India or India was having the presidency for G20 about 2 years back. So we documented that effort, and that is the work that Richard and I had actually done. And the idea for that documentation was to really say as to how a successful multilateral activity can actually happen, how various countries can actually learn from it. And
Let me interrupt you very briefly because I vividly remember in India going to Niti Aayog and also going to meet Dr. Kant, the head of the G20 for the government of India, and having to present our report to him and to his 4 secretaries.
yes.
This was a very tense moment.
So we have done that. And then, of course, this report has become so important that today it is being read by countries across the board who are really looking over at the G20 presidencies, how to identify what areas to work on, what matters to the world. So, we learn so much. Whether AI is going to be one of those things, or at least when India was talking about it, it was about inequality and the global south and how we are able to create equitable processes and that sort of things. The second thing that we did was on rice. There was a set of discussions that we have done. And we did something on rice fortification as to how rice fortification has actually uplifted a lot of people in the country from nutritional poverty point of view. And that it has been a stupendous exercise within the country. About 600 million people. India is about 1.5 billion people, so all numbers look large. So 600 million people actually got rice fortified, and we documented that effort and moved ahead. The other things that we have done has been pathways to electric mobility, then something on EV manufacturing. I'm not going to get into the research. All this research is available on US-ATMC. But there's something very important or fascinating that we are doing right now. And that whole thing is on Kumbh. So, there is this festival or Mahakumbh that happens here in early years. And this is the biggest human agglomeration, if you might say. Let me give you a simple comparison. There is something called the Sunburn Festival that happens here, which has close to about 4 to 5 million people coming in. You have the Hajj that happens every year, and there are close to about 20 million people. And when you talk about Mahakumbh, this year, close to about 200 to 300 million people came into that single location to really take a bathe or bathe in a river. So we are documenting that effort. So what we have done is that we have really coming out with 3 sets of documents. One is a photo book called The Joys of Kumbh that we have edited. We have had a couple of very smart photographers from US who went there and were there at the location for 45 days. We took about 9,000 pictures, and we have curated them to really see as to how that whole joy of Kumbh is reflected, or that whole gathering of humanity reflects something. The second thing that we are doing is on economic and social impact of that huge agglomeration that is happening at that location. Because suddenly when you have 300 million people coming in at one single location, it is going to create economic and social impact. So what is that economic and social impact that happens? And the third thing is management of Kumbh. So we are talking about a book on management of Kumbh. Incidentally, I can claim, or I can very proudly say, that this is possibly going to be one of the finest documents ever created as to when you actually have a city which gets created just for about 45 days, 300 million people come in, and that city gets dismantled on the on a bed of a river. So it's one of the finest documentation efforts that have actually happened over the last few centuries. And then, of course, what we are doing next is, the last but not the least, like Richard made me teach a course, or at least he was instrumental, I must say, in enabling a course at Stanford on understanding modern India. So and this was a course that was being offered for the first time at Stanford on understanding India. And the idea was to really create content which people are able to see the positives, the negatives of India, because you're either too positive or too negative about India. So can we create content which is more balanced? So what we are doing is that now we are writing 20 cases in collaboration with Harvard Business School Publishing on understanding modern India. So incidentally, 8 of them are already completed. And Richard and I are doing the final reviews for them. So some of them, I'll just quickly talk about it. Religious philosophy, the idea of democracy, the city of Varanasi, the state of Bihar, India through the eyes of cinema, foreign policy in India, the developmental challenges of India. So these are some of the cases that we are actually looking at. And last but not the least, we also did or teach a course called Reimagining Capitalism or Rebalancing Economic Systems. We have already edited what I call sections of those sessions, and we have tried to create a manuscript. So we are again in the process of review. So hopefully these cases are going to be out within the next 3 to 4 months, the 8 of them, and the whole compendium of 20 should be out by April of next year. And the book on reimagining capitalism should actually be out by middle of next year as well. So this is the collaboration that we're doing. Super exciting. And I think, like this has been one of my most significant collaborations. I must say, like, I'm very proud of 2 collaborations that I've actually had in my life. Like one was with a professor from Harvard, like who I worked with for about 20 odd years. And now with Richard, like it's been an honor of a lifetime to work with him. And we've known each other for 15 years, and then we developed mutual disdain and stuff. So that's how it happened, but it's just been a lovely experience.
Amit, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.